All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Growth Ethic Podcast, episode 15. I'm Shane Chalupa here with co host Sam Lee.
We're going back to our roots in this episode. Personal updates. We talk a little bit about mindfulness. I think that was a really cool tip that Shane shared. If you struggle with being present in certain moments, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 trick. So stick around for that. I'm certainly going to use it. I have trouble staying in the present at times. Um, and then a little talk about, I think, turning threats into challenges really sets the stage for you to tackle a lot of things, both on the personal and professional side of things. So stick around for that. Just a bit of learning from some recent reading that I did. And then we shift into gears into the business. Given that we've been doing this podcast for 8 months, I kind of naturally wanted to do a little bit of a brief overview on, what has changed on Shane's side of the business for the last 8 months. So really good kind of recap of where he and Mary started, although the business is, older than that, but just for the past 8 months, where it started, where it's been, and some tips and tricks along the way there as well. And then sort of wrapping it up with updates on my end with a lot of disruption happening. What are those key things that I think an SEO person should be focused on? And yeah, that pretty much wraps it up. We really hope that even, with the new kind of sessions around technical and training material that we pass along, that these are still, engaging and interesting to you all. So yeah, we'd love to hear from you. Please please subscribe. If there's stuff that you would like for Shane and myself to chat about, yeah, please drop us an email or a comment on any of our socials. But thank you again. And yeah, episode 15, welcome.
Yep. Welcome. Hope you enjoy.
Hello, Shane.
All right. Hey, Sam. How's it going?
It's going good. How are you doing, man?
Excellent. Excellent. We got a hot summer day here and kind of winding down the summer, getting ready to head back to school for the kiddos here in a few weeks. So just, yeah, enjoying that little tail end of summer right now.
We got 1 month left till summer is over. I was kind of getting sad the other day. I was sitting by my pool after a run, and I've been getting into this routine of not overtraining for my marathon. So mixing in some swims and some other ways to kind of elevate the heart rate and all that stuff. But yeah, I just had a moment of like, wow, we are 1 month away from summer ending, and I feel like the year has been going very fast this year. So like even in March, my wife and I would sit back and say, wow, it's already March. But really, I feel like something about September really marks like, wow, we've made it through. Maybe it's because I was like back to school when we were growing up. There's this weird kind of atmosphere in the air for me when it turns into September. But I think lots has, we were just talking about, we've been doing this podcast for almost a year now. And, I hope that we can get into a little bit about, how things have evolved for us as humans, as people, as husbands, as friends, but also for our business. I feel like there's so much that we can kind of revisit just in the last 8 months of this year.
Oh, big time. Yeah. And I agree with you. Yeah. When September rolls around, I even noticed actually this week in August, some of the leaves start to drop a little bit. It's a little drier and you start getting that hint of fall coming in. And yeah, with all the kids heading back to school, it kind of just marks that tail end of summer. And it's always excited about the fall, but it seems like you kind of wait all winter and spring for the summer, and then before you know, you got a couple vacations or a couple events and things with friends and family, and then it's already heading in, and you're thinking about fall. So it's do enjoy living here though, having all the seasons and enjoying the summer that we've been having so far. And yeah, I think there's a lot to update everybody on, and this is going to be a great episode, I think, to do that and jump back in. We've been doing a little bit more technical stuff as of late, but we're going to keep alternating on that and coming back around with maybe some more life updates, business updates, and of course there'll always be some educational content just by the nature of our discussions. So I guess I'll get started off and ask you what's been going on, life, business, big updates that you want to share.
Yeah, man. I think for the past couple of weeks, and it's been such a joy. I've been able to spend a lot of time with family. It was my dad's 70th birthday the other day, so we took the opportunity to bring the whole family up to the Poconos for a few nights, played a little bit of golf, spent just a lot of quality time. Um, and the week prior to that, we had cousins from South Jersey visit us, and I haven't seen them in a while. So it's every weekend has been, family fun filled times, and so uplifting to see, where everyone's at in their kind of journey in life. So yeah, life has been really good. Just really taking advantage of the beautiful weather, and honestly, family being so close by. Yeah, really just taking advantage of that, and really has been such a wonderful past few weeks. Yeah, and aside from that, I mean, I think on the personal side of things, my wife and I have now been in this apartment for a little over 6 months, which is wild to think,
Oh my gosh, yeah, that is wild to think.
yeah, it truly feels like home. We've now gone through almost all of the seasons in this apartment. We still have fall coming up, but it's been such a blessing to have, such a beautiful place to ourselves. And, I think we're now in that next phase of our journey where we're talking about kids. And um, yeah, I think that's going to unlock another level in our relationship as far as communication and emotional intelligence is concerned. So, um, if I had to, take a step back and review my last, few weeks to a few months of my personal life, it's been this joyous time of celebrating life with everybody, but also this kind of doubling down on discipline, really, removing those things that don't add any value to my life, um, whether that's, excessive screen time or alcohol or anything that just detracts me from elevating myself to be a better husband and a future father and all in those capacities. And it's been, I've been feeling um, that pain of growth, right? I think it doesn't always come easy, but it's truly exciting to think about what this next chapter is. And so, in a really good spot, man, mentally, physically, kind of emotionally, really just working on myself, not just for the present, but for um, what this beautiful thing called life has in store for me in the upcoming months.
Oh, that's so exciting. So good to hear, and want to definitely dive into some of those business updates. And I know on the life side of things, it's funny because we always, since we came together and started doing this podcast, we have so many parallels and similarities. And I think a lot of people in general have a lot more parallels and similarities in their lives than maybe the media wants to lead on and let us believe. But we're kind of all in this thing called life, and that throws similar challenges and beautiful moments, all the different emotions at you at different times. And Mary and I were also reflecting recently about like how the summer has been a time for investment in the family and seeing lots of friends and family at different occasions, including some pretty distant travel for us. Had a trip up to Maine, a trip out to Montana, to visit family, and really got to enjoy that time and stretch our limits of what it takes both to do long trips with little kids, but also for me working remotely and balancing all of that with the business while doing that. And if I had to summarize it lately, we've been trying to make it more of like the game of life, and knowing that we're never really going to get to that point where you feel like you're on top of everything. If I had to reflect back, I would say like thinking back to like maybe college and then post college, when you're kind of in your first few roles, you may or may not have had like a spouse or a partner, and probably didn't have kids at that point, and you kind of do feel a little bit more, at least for me, I felt a little bit more on top of things because it was just a lot more manageable. But at the same time, there was really not as much growth going on as once we got a home, then we got a dog, then we got kids, then we started a business. And we've also been leveling up in that sense. And as you continue to add those big milestones and pieces to your life, it definitely stretches you and forces you to kind of break down and rebuild, and continuing to just kind of break down, destroy, and then rebuild. And you're in that cycle, and it feels uncomfortable at first, but then it's just really a game of getting comfortable in that uncomfortable feeling. And Mary and I looked at each other. I think this was yesterday. We were on a long drive even, and we looked at each other and we're like, yeah, it's not gonna ever get easier. Like, it doesn't get easier. You just learn to enjoy and live in the moment, be present, and actually enjoy the process of destroy, rebuild, and just continuously doing that to grow. And so we've just been in that cycle and are now embracing that more than ever. And it's really been a fun journey. But there's a lot of trials and tribulations, of course, for anybody out there who's looking to get started on whatever it is new that you've never done before. It's going to be challenging and uncomfortable, and it should be. And that's good because it's a sign of growth.
100%. And then even for, people that don't, have a girlfriend, boyfriend, fiance, a partner, there's other ways to challenge yourself, right? Outside of, the thing that you arguably spend the most time on, which is typically your job or your work or your business. You and I talk about this all the time, but we want to set physical goals, athletic goals, some sort of achievement that we're working towards. And I think, there's something so cyclical about how we operate. We want to do great things for our business. We want to be a great family man. We want to also, run a marathon in a certain amount of time, do a Spartan race. I think those, giving yourself within reason, a great kind of variety of challenges to break yourself down. As kind of weird as that sounds, there's kind of a muscle memory in all areas of life that you kind of need to build up. Um, and so it doesn't require you to have a business or a partner or this or that to challenge yourself. There's undoubtedly ways that you can challenge yourself and better yourself over time.
Yeah, 100%. And two things that come to my mind are, one, I was listening to Lewis Howe's podcast on my run the other day, and he talked about a seminar that he went to that made an impression on him. And the person leading it said, "What do you get when you squeeze an orange?" And he asks everybody, and, well, yeah, you get orange juice, right? Like, you get the juice of the fruit. And Lewis was saying how in that seminar, the person was really talking about when you put yourself under pressure, or life puts you under pressure, you really get squeezed. You see what comes out and what's on the inside. And really, this has been when you continuously put yourself in those pressure situations where you're feeling squeezed and uncomfortable, you really get to see what you're made of. And as I reflect back on different situations, like having our first, then having our second child, or starting the business and things, I've actually noticed that you grow as a human, and you're able to change and morph and improve what's on the inside. So that way, when you get squeezed, what comes out, you really want that to be the best version of yourself and the best juice from yourself. So that one just stuck with me. And I was thinking about that because I've had that so many times where when you get squeezed, even in an instant at work, or a tough situation where it happens in a meeting or something, when you get squeezed, what's truly going on inside is what's going to come out. And for me, the journey has really been improving what I like to call my programming internally. So that way, when I'm in those situations and getting in those uncomfortable situations, you really have worked through, and you get the best version of what is yourself internally to come out when you're squeezed. So I love that one. And the second one is, I drew it out in my journal yesterday, I think, and I just put in built like a pie chart kind of. And initially I had like after college, because I was like trying to visualize this, right? It's like after college, okay, half and half. Okay, it's half work, half personal life. And that was really all you had to balance. And within personal life, you could have fitness and these different things, but it was relatively simple. And then I said, okay, well, then you get a spouse, a partner, or you get married. Then you kind of divide that pie into smaller sections, and then you add a house and you add another section, and then you add one kid, then you add two kids, then you add a business, and that pie chart starts to get really diversified, and your kind of what I call time energy is divvied up among all of those things. And then it's really about, to me right now, the game of it all is how do you be the best version of yourself in all of those parts, because you're always going to be flowing that time energy into different areas at different points in time, and trying to just maximize the output and the outcomes from each of those areas in your more diversified pie chart now.
Yeah, man. And I've been that kind of reminds me of like this one thought, and I've been doing a lot more like audiobooks during my runs and while I'm working out. I was just listening to Steve Magnus's Do Hard Things. There's a
Nice.
lot of great stuff in there, but it's really this central idea of what is like tenacity, what is toughness, right? There's um, kind of old school thoughts of toughness. Think back to like, football teams back in the day, that rough and tough kind of coach that maybe doesn't prepare you enough, but makes you just start running or penalizes you for not doing something well by making you run. Um, but similar to, how over the course of your life, there's newer things that challenges you to manage your time better. I think a great kind of piece of advice I took from this book recently was that, you know, things that are new to you can feel like a threat to your time, to your energy, to your business. Um, but that reaction to a threat, that's usually kind of this kind of almost like a hormonal reaction of like, wow, I can't, I'm kind of rendered with inactivity. I can't like make an action. Can quickly turn into a challenge, which is much more positive. You get filled with more adrenaline, and that transition from a threat to a challenge. There's a lot of factors that helps you kind of navigate that turn. But I thought, one thing that really stuck out to me was preparation. Now, you won't be prepared in all kind of scenarios, but you can certainly, talk to someone that has already faced a similar challenge, read a book, honestly, experience the same type of threat prepares you for that threat in the future as well. So, um, yeah, I totally vibe with you on that one. We just keep adding more and more, whether it's, you know, voluntary or involuntarily. Um, I think you yourself have to work, you know, to improve yourself, your relationships, your communication with your spouse, to be able to really change that threat into a challenge and then make it into a great learning experience. It'll only make you even stronger on the other end.
Oh, big time. Yeah. And that kind of triggered a few thoughts in my mind. One is like, a lot of that stuff is traced back to me, has been traced back to two things. One is your childhood upbringing and experiences, your parents, all of that, that forms, again, like kind of your emotional programming. And then the second part is around your reason of why you're doing something. Because when you're faced with something new, if you have a strong why, just like Simon Sinek has it, like start with why. And if you have that, that really gives you the power to push through and move through things. And you got to have those two things, an understanding of them, to really push yourself and do hard things.
Yeah. Well, what's kind of the biggest challenge right now on the personal side of things? We'll definitely get to the business side, but what's been challenging you for your time, for your energy, or anything that you've maybe recently overcome that might be worth sharing to the audience?
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, it's just balancing out with the family, trying to really balance out with the family side and time. For me, compartmentalizing with the kids, Mary, as far as a spouse goes, my personal fitness level, all of that. Plus, then the business, and how do I compartmentalize and make sure I'm maximizing my investment and not letting things kind of, they're always going to cross pollinate, but to make sure that I'm devoting the time and attention to a certain piece. And one big breakthrough for me recently was actually, I think last weekend on Saturday. I've always got to infuse some AI here because it has helped us in so many ways. And like this was such a big breakthrough for me is being with my daughters. I'm the type of person where when I have something that I'm focused on, like right now, it's just the business because it's our livelihood. It's kind of everything for our family right now, and focusing on that and making it not only viable but sustainable and long term. And so for me, it's really hard to turn that off when I'm doing other things. And it's funny because I only recently realized, like, oh, the way that I think and get so focused on that is different than a lot of other people have that. And so I only recently was like, oh wow, okay. And so I realized it, and then I was like, okay, how could I kind of immediately make an impact? Well, Mary was gone for the day. I was with the girls and we were outside playing, and we have just like a little inflatable pool and the girls are out there. The sun's shining. I'm kind of just supervising, watching on my chair, letting them do their thing in the in the little mini pool bounce house thing, and which they love. And I'm thinking like, how could I be more present? And then I fire up ChatGPT. I got mine named Saul with the voice, and it's like, hey Saul, I'm working on this. I want to be more mindful about what I'm doing and in the moment with my girls. What are some things that I can do? And the big takeaway after using Soul as kind of my mindfulness coach in the moment, impromptu, was this methodology of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, which Saul gave back to me. I don't know much about it, but it's probably well published and kind of a well known thing in the mindfulness space. But and it's really like, sit in the moment. What are 5 things you see? For me, I kind of adjusted it. It's what are 4 things that I hear? What are let's see here, 3 things that I feel, 2 things that I smell, and 1 thing that I taste in that moment. So just I've been making that, trying to make that more of a habit of, no matter what I'm doing, whether I'm out on my run or I'm with the girls or I'm with Mary, it's like, if I'm feeling like I'm having all these thoughts in my head and I can't center on the moment, I just go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And that really helps, like, oh wow, be in the present moment, like hearing the birds chirping, smelling kind of the late summer grass and leaves and the plants. Maybe there's something cooking, whatever that might be. And then whatever you taste, probably whatever you had last to eat, or even sometimes something you smell, you can kind of taste that. And it really just brings you right back to the present moment. And that's been one really big win for me. And in an area where, again, AI has enabled that and unlocked that, something that, I would have had to just happen to read a book and have to, or search that online. But you're not going to get that in almost in real time now, where it's like, you've got a mindfulness coach in your pocket, you've got a therapist in your pocket, you've got a psychologist, like all of these areas. It's just so readily accessible if you know how to use it, and just immediate benefits. So that was a really big win lately for me.
Dude, that's awesome. And I hear people that um, suffer from a lot of anxiety do something very similar, right? When they have, when they're feeling like a panic attack coming.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
yeah, I hear that being, a really sound piece of advice. But that's super cool, man. I love that. I love that you're making more of a conscious approach to be present in those moments where, like, you're not just focusing on the business, but you're with the girls or you're with Mary. Like, yeah, I think yeah, that's the most important thing above all else, right? Like those little moments with family.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And yeah, I saw this recently, a quote where it's like, I don't remember it word for word or verbatim, but it's along the lines of, happiness is knowing that you don't need the other things to achieve happiness. And really, it's like just about being present in the moment really is happiness. And if you have it, I think it's great to have future goals and want to push yourself and do all that, but ultimately the true happiness is in the present moment. It's when you're training and it's when you're running the race or you're building something. Like, that's when the most fun is. It's not going to be when you achieve and you hit the finish line and after it. Like, you're not gonna have the same amount of enjoyment that you are for all the training that you're doing building up to a race or the building that you're doing in a business. The wins just are not going to be, they're really not what happiness is. And for me personally, I've seen, I think, some family members trying to utilize happiness or utilize material things and like continuous experiences to be a proxy for like internal peace and happiness. Because I think a lot of times it's a lot of self work and investment that you have to do in order to get to that like peaceful state and really true happiness, and understanding that material things and experiences and kind of always being continuously on and doing things all hyperactive almost is not going to ultimately lead you to happiness. It's just almost like dopamine, dopamine, dopamine all the time, instead of just being present and slowing things down and being okay with not always doing something or getting something, to just focus on that present moment. So that's been a big focus for both Mary and I, is like, how do we get more present? How do we stay in the moment? How do we try and avoid anxiety around things in the future and kind of depressive things from the past, and just focus on the day ahead of us?
Yeah. It's such a fragile thing, right? Like, you can be so strong about that, and be so in line. Like, for me, it's my spirituality that drives my happiness and my purpose, but it's so fleeting at times. I'll have it one day, and the next it's like I am just money hungry, and my entire being is controlled by these external factors and validators. And it's so fragile. It's I mean, I think it's going to take a lifetime to really figure out and hone in on. um, but the fact that we're aware of that, I think, is a huge blessing, because then we can be mindful in
Yeah.
the way that we tackle our days, our minds, our hearts, and our relationships. Those all is, when I think about my spirituality, it is all just, it all stems from me being aligned in my spirituality, in the way that I treat people, in the
Hmm.
ways that I tackle challenges. It all comes from one singular place. But that singular place, like I said, can be very fleeting and fragile. So I have to protect it at all costs. And yeah, trying to enjoy that part of it, um, I think is super, super important. And man, the metaphor that you gave around, like, not, it's not just about the finish line. It perfectly represents what I've been going through, because I actually just got Achilles tendonitis on both my
Oh.
legs. I think it was from slight overtraining. I
Hmm.
have some theories as to why. I think it was
Hmm.
because I started incorporating a lot more like speed run, hill runs.
Hmm.
So I had to like take a step back for 7 days, for a week, and just try to enjoy this 1 week's of rehab journey. Um, and thankfully, I feel a lot better now. I went for a bit of a run yesterday. I feel back to normal. But
Nice.
man, like, you do really have to enjoy even the bad moments. That's part of the overall journey, to hopefully, cross that finish line at my goal time.
Yeah, no, oh my gosh, yeah, that, and I think that running, especially, it's been neat because we've both been on a running journey, completely unrelated and parallel journeys that are kind of going to culminate here in both of us running a marathon probably within a month of each other, or within a few weeks of each other, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And but man, it really does, like, running and training for something that is challenging. It does really represent kind of life in such a great metaphorical way of that enjoying the journey and that you're also going to have these moments that are going to really challenge you and test you and like there are I'm sure there are people out there, a very select few who can just hop up and go run that marathon or do whatever. But in for the most part, right, people you have to invest, you have to have a plan or do some planning and then try and adhere to that plan and execute. And there's going to be setbacks and life's going to just throw things at you. And it's more about how you handle those challenges and how that shapes you as a person to receive those challenges and turn them into something that's a positive and come back stronger and what you can learn from it. And yeah, both of us having injuries and kind of now coming back from them. And, you just get smarter and you learn along the way and you just kind of persevere and remain, if your why is strong, then you kind of remain driven internally to continue to push forward and do hard things and meet those challenges.
Yeah, man. I've learned, and now that we're talking about running, I've learned just so much about the body. And again, like having a chat GPT um, has helped. Even reading books, like I think Born to Run is probably my favorite running book. It's
Nice.
kind of a deep dive into like this tribe that can run like ultra marathons without any shoes.
Wow.
Like their diet is just super, super, just organic stuff. Like they're not making protein smoothies after a run. Like they're just
Right. Yeah. All
just
natural.
all natural, no gimmicks. But that was in addition to reading books like that, it really allowed me to educate myself on the body, on nutrition, and
Amazing.
that it's not about having the fanciest shoes or like the Normatec like recovery gear. Although that stuff helps, of course, use it
Mhm.
to your advantage. But if you do suffer from an injury or you're just not seeing the progress, it's not because you don't have the right equipment. It's most likely a deficiency in the natural body that you've been given and identifying those inefficiencies and working on it. And so that metaphorical kind of connection between running and life is so visible each and every day when you tie those laces and go out for a run. It's pretty damn cool.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think it also another parallel between kind of life and fitness at a high level is like there are certain what I've found to be true at least is there are certain areas and methodologies for exercising and fitness that fit better for me and my body, my personality, all of those things. And similarly, like in life, there are certain situations, even like in career specifically, there are certain things that I really enjoy doing more than others. And then I'm more magnetized towards that. So I found that going and leaning in towards those things that you're more drawn to and that are more of a natural fit and energize you, that's another huge unlock because it just makes life and whatever you're working on that much more exciting and the results are a lot faster because you are just almost like magnetically drawn to that as opposed to trying to force things to happen and kind of like putting that square peg in a round hole type thing.
Nice, nice. Cool, man. Look, let's shift gears a little. I feel like I haven't even talked to you much about Obnovid in the last month. Where should we begin? I know, man, just I think just also thinking about how we're, quickly approaching 1 year of starting
Yeah.
this podcast. The types of things, of course, there still are things that you're selling and delivering that are the same since day one of Opnovit. Um, but there's been so much change and um, new desires for the business as well. Um, yeah, do you want to speak a little bit to kind of the evolution of Obnovid, and then we can get into some of your more current priorities?
Yeah, definitely. To give kind of that timeline, if we were to rewind to a little under a year ago, Actually, just about a year ago, because a lot of my stuff, the original formation, or not formation, but original investments for the all in. So Novit's going on 2 years old now. The concept is about 3 years old, but really where Mary and I decided to start going all in on it was just about a year ago in August.
Right.
And that was like getting things for insurance and furthering all of the infrastructure required for the business to really get it going. Um, if I were to kind of summarize that in quick touch points, it was like I always knew the journey was going to start with engineering services and a really high level of expertise to offer to other people, and that they couldn't get elsewhere, that they needed help. They couldn't hire somebody full time on their team, but they definitely needed somebody. So it was that going to be a bridge into, I didn't know what the next piece was, but I knew it was something technical infused with helping other businesses and coaching and optimization. And ultimately, what that has now turned into over time is a core business around technical expertise and engineering services for companies that don't need to hire a full-time person that has our expertise in-house that we can offer, plus our network of additional experts. So we have that core going and expanding and growing, and kind of some really neat spaces that we're going into, especially hydrogen, sustainability, and kind of doubling down on that, and have brought in another person, Matt, to help us out right now. Initially, probably going to be near full time here in the next week or two, ramping up. So helping to land and do all of that work. And then for me, I've been now kind of shifting my focus from the technical engineering day to day to now serving as a bridge myself between AI and implementation and augmentation within engineering and construction companies, kind of in this industrial space. And that has really been the big unlock since, well, the journey with AI starts 2.5 years ago in February. I was in San Diego with my father in law. So that was February, I think, of 23. So ChatGPT was released, I think, November of 2022, if I'm not mistaken. February of 2023, my father and I are talking about AI, and kind of, we're like, oh, it's another kind of Google. Our initial ignorant take was like, oh, it's another Google, but it's going to have way more power and potential. And we knew it back then, and then we both started utilizing it, and I had started utilizing it in engineering more and more over the last 2.5 years, culminating in the point where almost let's see, January of this year, where it was like, oh, realizing the real power to be able to handle a lot of the routine tasks that I was doing in the paperwork, so that I could focus on the core of actually engineering and problem solving, and then really just double checking things and making sure that I'm getting the results and going the way that I want to go, and not having to spend so much time like programming a spreadsheet or physically writing the stuff down and running the calculations on the calculator, but more of like checking that work and understanding, is it physically correct for what I need. So I've now like realized that power, implemented it. And so it's amazing because we're able to roll that out internally with our own engineering practice. And now we've got a handful of clients on the AI side, where helping coach, consult, and implement in all areas of the business within in the industrial sector and side of things. So that's been really exciting. And yeah, we're getting ready to grow pretty significantly, at least for the client base, and going to kick off a fall cohort training program for AI fundamentals for starting on September 30th of this year, actually.
That's awesome, dude. It's this operational kind of like engine that you're kind of building onto these businesses and teams. It's been such a joy seeing you develop, because this isn't just you going and reading things online. You're actively learning, taking courses, to be that trusted partner for a lot of great clients out there. So that's, yeah, I appreciate you outlining kind of the journey of it, because man, who would have really thought that you'd be here 8 months ago when we started this podcast doing AI enablement and operationalizing for a lot of clients. It's super cool.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's also one of those things where for us the podcast and then for what you're doing, again, so many similarities around, you have a kind of agency service based business as your core, and I know you've been growing that. Love for you to kind of give us a catch up here in a timeline, and now I know you're similarly doing your investing, practicing all of the AI, and now starting to layer on some of that community base for helping others leverage AI in their business in your specific niche as well.
Yeah, I'll start with that last part. I think, we're not necessarily going out and teaching our clients and prospects how to leverage AI. We're building things internally um, for two basic reasons. One, it's the time now for all SEOs to upskill knowledge, upskill tactical skills, learning how to create a Google Colab Python notebook to automate a lot of these tasks. Um, and so it's a lot of building things internally um, to be able to provide even more value to our clients. So yeah, we're not going out and we're not doing AI enablement training. We're just adopting that internally to honestly stay relevant, because those SEO agencies and consultants that are kind of you know keeping a blind eye and just saying, hey, if you just do traditional SEO, you're fine. Yes, that's true to a certain degree, but there's new tactics that has to be that people need to explore right now. And in doing so, you and I always believe in this, but providing content and value to people for free, um, it allows us to really understand the subject matter even more by being able to teach it. Um, but we just love to share. I mean, that's kind of the one of the big reasons why we started this. We just wanted a platform to teach from experience and give out our time and free content and value to anyone listening. So yeah, that's been a big chunk of my time lately because of this whole AI search revolution and disruption. I've never felt this type of challenge in my entire career of having to relearn and in some cases unlearn a lot of what I thought was correct or were best practices to help a business become more visible on search. Um, these technologies are quite different from what we're used to with things like Google and Bing, and so it's been a lot of just education, not even just from reading, but then tactically testing new um, you know projects and recommendations that could have a good impact for my clients. So yeah, that's kind of been like the big piece of my business in the past few months. But outside of that, I think yeah, I'm really just trying to grow my practice. Um, so a lot of energy has been spent on the sales and marketing side, mostly on the sales side of things. Going back to my network and warm leads out there, and really educating them on why SEO is even more important than ever right now with so many new search ecosystems that um, your potential customers are interacting and engaging on. And yeah, I think hopefully within this next 6 to 12 months we have a full book for my most recent employee, and that'll quickly evolve into the next phase, whether that's bringing on more practitioners, or maybe building out more of the sales and marketing side and
Mhm.
automating that part of my business. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But currently, the main focus is how does our delivery need to change? What is our SEO philosophy? Is that going to change a little bit? Um, and upskilling myself and my team to be able to handle more potential business.
Nice. Yeah, no, that's amazing. And there's yeah, so much going on, so many parallels there about implementing it, and love the technical content that you've been sharing via the podcast and then other platforms like LinkedIn and some of the YouTube shorts that come out from the podcast on to help people in your niche and community and space to upskill and really get on up with the times, let's say, and kind of get on the train here because yeah, it's leaving and it's leaving fast and it's going to change rapidly. I mean, even just the LLMs themselves and their capabilities are changing so rapidly. And that pace of change is only going to keep increasing because they keep getting better. So it's almost like a self fulfilling prophecy in that the stronger they get, the faster that they can iterate and make it better and better and better. And it's really going to change the landscapes fast and dramatically, kind of step changes every probably 3 months. We're going to see that at least for the next couple of years, I think, going out, whether that be in the SEO space or whatever industry business. Like there's no person and no business out there that will not be affected by this in one way or another.
Yeah. And one thing that I'll say just on the SEO front, I've been having so many conversations that began with, "Hey, Sam, what do we do? How do we become more visible on AI search?" And so I want to take the opportunity for any business owners that either have an SEO under contract or is an SEO providing services in any capacity. There's one thing that you must be doing, and that's around tracking and reporting. I think that's so important because you first get a better understanding of how these technologies work by way of understanding how the tools report on a business's visibility. So, you know, really understanding, is the SEO tracking tool looking at the user interface to gather that information? Are they connecting to an API pipeline to collect that information? Like you just said, Shane, the LLMs are changing so rapidly. There's new features, new models being released, and it's it's kind of unfair, but it is the SEO person's job to keep up with all of that change. Don't get so overwhelmed, but have some system and process in place for you to continuously educate yourself. um, but that'll also help you understand the reporting aspect, because there's there's going to be a lot of change as far as how we report success from an SEO perspective. In the past, it was, there were probably way too many SEO agencies out there reporting on traffic as their primary KPI. It was always a vanity metric for me. It was not my main key kind of performance indicator. Mine was always, honestly dictated by the client. Was it dollars? Was it lead gen? Was it form fills? Those should always be your main KPIs, but we do need, as a community, to replace traffic with something that makes a little bit more sense in the realm of AI search. Something, and those metrics right now being floated are your the number of mentions, how many times your brand is being mentioned in an actual response or a citation, how many times a page is linked to on these large language models. So that, I think, is a much better proxy, I think, moving forwards than traffic as a leading indicator of your program success. So that's the number one thing that I would encourage a lot of SEO people to do right now. Get more familiar with the tools and how they're getting their data from large language models, and try to layer that information into your client or clients. Um, Getting ahead of that prepares you for a lot of difficult conversations that we're all going to have, whether it's right now, which I am having with a bunch of my clients and prospects. But of course, in the future, this is going to be just your regular weekly, monthly reporting KPI that you'll be, speaking to. So that's the number one thing. If there's one additional tip that I'll throw in there, yes, there's a lot of literature out there right now saying, and studies being done that confirm that a lot of the stuff you're doing for Google and Bing and traditional search engines, they work. They still allow you to be very visible in large language models. But if you're trying to get ahead of the competition, there are things that are AI search specific that might not be a best practice today, but it will really serve you well to at least learn about it, maybe even pressure test it for, a sandbox website that you have out there, or a client who's really willing to be a little more like avant-garde and try new things. Definitely test and trial, because once you have a couple of great case studies, that can be a really big unlock for you, your business, and just your credibility in this disruptive state that we're in this industry. So, two little tips there. If you haven't already, definitely check out our, I think, maybe 2 or 3 episodes where I go down
Yeah.
the path of a couple of actual like workflows.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I'm sure I'll have a lot more in future episodes where we walk through AI search specific tactics. But I'm still in that journey right now of testing things out with a couple websites right now, and hopefully I have some cool findings to share with the people here.
Amazing. I can't wait. And yeah, for everybody who's just listening out there, feel free to track down Sam or myself, especially Sam on the SEO front, AI, SEO. And I think I've now been seeing some things calling it GEO, generative, or let's see, yeah, GEO, generative
Generative
engine
engine yeah.
optimization. So on LinkedIn, Sam's big presence there. I'm also on there, but Sam Lee, Key Rise Consulting, and then likewise anything else from basic fundamentals of kind of coaching up and how to use and get the most out of the LLMs and some more advanced stuff. Shane Chalupa at Shane Chalupa on Instagram or on LinkedIn. You'll find me there with Obnovit. And of course, you can always reach out through the Growth and Dick podcast socials and or email address. And yeah, Sam, so many great pieces in there, and everything that you're saying about SEO rings true for any other business. And one thing I wanted to point out there to give people a little bit of urgency, those business owners that you're talking with, and those people who might be listening to this and hopefully do get to listen to this, is you need to have a little urgency, because guess what? I haven't fooled around much with it, but I know now Google has where it will have an agent call the business to reach out and get a quote or whatever or schedule it. And before too long, there won't be really people, you and me, anybody else calling these businesses. It's going to be Shane's agent calling XYZ company's agent and scheduling or getting a proposal for cleaning the gutters or cleaning the windows or detailing the car or sealing our driveway. Whatever the case is, especially those people who are B2C, it's going to be a huge deal, because it's not going to be the people calling in any longer. It's going to be agents calling other agents and handling all that. And somebody like you or me in the background, that our agent is going to know our preferences, what we like, where we live, how we would select companies for based on star ratings and value, or we always lowest price, all that stuff. And so these businesses need to start getting ahead, because it's not like, oh, this is coming. Like these parts, the building blocks are here today. I haven't done it yet, but I know that it's been released and talked about, where you can go on Google, click a button and put in what you want, and then it will handle calling, scheduling, quoting, all that for you. So I don't know if you've messed with that at all, but I know it's here in the Google ecosystem already.
Yeah, I haven't played around with it yet, but it rings definitely true that an SEO person, the real kind of bread and butter is that you're always optimizing for an individual, your ideal customer profile. But as you're doing so, you also need to be optimizing for the crawlers, for the agents, and now agents. And what that means from just from a website perspective is quite different from what it was 5, 10 years ago. There are tactical and um, semantic and structural things
Hmm.
that allows a website to be a little bit more compatible with how um, either right now people are searching on large language models and or agents coming through as a proxy for the actual person.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it's exciting times right now. Probably a good way to bring this one home and land the plane is like not creating panic out of fear, but definitely want to drive urgency for people. And to me, if you go back to some of our earlier episodes, I would encourage people, especially on kind of the technical training pieces, if you want fundamentals and kind of how to just start digesting what AI is, go back to episode 12 on our podcast here, the Growth Ethic podcast. Start there. And then if you're in the SEO world, definitely go through 12, 13, and 14. If you're just, kind of more generalized AI, how do I use and apply this? Definitely episodes 12 and 14. And we'll continue to put out more and more content. And again, feel free to reach out to me for more of that coaching aspect and how can you start implementing it into your business and strategy and mapping the tactical, practical ways to start benefiting. And then of course on the SEO side of things, then Sam is definitely your person there to lead and a thought leader in the industry right now on that. So it's exciting times, more to come. Again, we're going to continue to try and pump out more kind of industry news, training all fused together so people can stay on top of it and really get digestible chunks from boots on the ground, folks who, neither of us are developers or have long careers in it, but we're just figuring out how do we leverage this in our small businesses to get the most out of it. How are we seeing clients in the SMB enterprise space leverage it and get the most out of it?
Very good. Awesome, man. All righty. Well, that's another episode. Thank you,
That's all right.
everybody, for tuning in. Again, please drop us a comment, email. We'd love to hear from you guys if there's anything specific around AI enablement, SEO, business development, relationships, anything. We'd love to hear from you and make these hours as valuable as possible to you all.
Yep. Yeah. Thanks for tuning in and look for our next episode coming out in another 2 weeks with more tips, tricks. We'll be more on the technical track with some lessons for everybody. And look forward to that.
Cool. Alrighty.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Sam.